Hi, as I see it, there are three components that go into following through on your goals or any habit that you're trying to develop. Those three components are consistency, iteration, and environment. Today, we're going to talk about iteration. Iteration is just the ongoing practice of refining a process until it works for you or until it works towards your end goal. And I personally believe that action begets clarity, which is to say, action creates clarity. No matter how thoroughly we plan, we're always going to be missing information until we are actually in the process of doing something. The reason why it's helpful to befriend iteration or just have a more positive association with the process is because it's inevitable. Your first plan cannot be your final. It can't. If you reminisce on anything in your past, anytime you make a plan, all you're doing is giving yourself an outline. And then as you're moving through it, you're going to see all these things that need to change. You're going to come across all these obstacles that you could not have thought of until you were in that situation. And that's just the nature of things. And I say this as someone who strategizes and plans for a living. Okay? I know that I am missing information, and you're only going to get it as you take those steps towards your goal. Iteration can be more fun if you think of it as an opportunity to experiment. Now let's talk about the mechanics of iteration. It's actually very simple. What's going to happen is you're going to make a plan, you're going to take step one, and then you're going to look around and realize that there's a lot of information that you didn't account for. Every single time. And then based off of that information, you're going to refine the plan, what needs to change or be amplified or stay exactly the same in order to get to step two. And then just start experimenting. And then when you find a way to move into step two, you start the process all over again. Let's move into an example. Listen, folks, I'm in my whiteboard era. There's nothing we can do about this. Here's the example. Write 1,000 words every morning. Technically, this is a plan. It's just not a very good one. I already made a video about effective goal setting that you can check out. But what matters here is once I sit down to take an action, I'm going to encounter a couple different things. The first that I see is write. What does it mean to write? Does writing include revising? And if revising is a separate process, when do I do that? When am I editing? Another thing to think about, what's the format of writing? Is it just typing? Does audio recordings count if I transcribe them? If I don't transcribe them? Does freehand count? Am I going to literally count each word that I write? The next thing is this 1,000 words. So with 1,000 words, is that net or gross? If you were writing something yesterday and you come back the next day to revise it, and you deleted 600 words, do you need to write then 1,600 words to get to your 1,000? Then the next thing is morning. Morning is an amorphous concept. Is this a specific time? Is it as soon as I wake up? How does being full or hungry impact the writing? All of these things are variables that can go into the process of iteration. If I were trying to refine this process, right off the bat, you'll see that there are three different variables that can be moved or adjusted in order to help you accomplish this larger goal. What are the different little tweaks that you can make that will energetically ease your process? Here we have even more considerations for this goal that only occur to me over a longer time horizon over doing this action repeatedly. Thinking about peopling. I personally find it easier to write if I don't talk to anyone before I start. Another thing is seasonal shifts. And again, if we're talking about morning, what does morning mean to you? If it's winter and your understanding of morning is tied to the sun, then you might need to change the time that you write. Another thing to consider is menstrual cycles. So there are 4 stages in the menstrual cycle, and what if you're better at writing in the luteal phase, but in the ovulatory phase, you're better at refining, you're better at editing? Do you want to take that into account? Does this every single morning, does that really have to be writing, or can it be something else? There's all these different factors that you can think of. And then also, is this the best metric? Where did this number come from? 1,000 words. What is that based in? And secondly, should it even be words, or should you be considering the amount of time that you want to write? So should it be write for 1 hour every morning? And then the last thing to think about is the environment in which you are writing. And as you can see, environment in and of itself has all these other variables that you can mess around with. Do you need to have snacks with you? Do you prefer writing on the couch, or do you want to have a desk? What do you want to look at? Do you like seeing the outside, or is that too distracting for you? Music or noise? I know a lady who loves writing with Real Housewives on the TV in front of her. Couldn't be me. No, I can't even really write with music because sometimes that's too much information. Candles or incense? Do you like seeing the smoke of the incense go up? Do you think having that little flicker of flame, would that be stimulating in a way that is useful to you for writing? When you come across a barrier, think about the variables that are impacting that obstacle. And then think about the changes that you can make using any of these variables in order to help you move past that obstacle. So this is just off the top of my head. This is something like 15 different variables for what is supposed to be a very simple goal. And if this feels overwhelming, take a deep breath, because you're not going to interact with every single one of these variables every single time. When you find that you're not achieving the milestones for your goal, or you're not doing the habit that you're trying to build, this is where iteration becomes really useful, because then you can just look at all of these variables and ask yourself, which part of these is where the resistance is, and how could I change it? Now, as an amateur scientist, I look at this and I say, wow, that's a lot of hypotheses. That's a lot of playground to play in. Getting to your goals is important and you can take it very seriously, but really, because you are going to have to change your plans at some point, you're going to have to iterate on whatever your initial draft is, you might as well make it playful. You're going to have to adjust and adapt to whatever new information you receive. So it's valuable to get used to the process of iterating. Befriending iteration really starts with going through the process and then thinking of all the variables that you can shift to make this easier for you. Okay, let me know, when are you most creative, or when are you most generative? When do you do your best work? Now, if you want to learn a simple framework for taking consistent action towards your goals, you can check out this video here. Bye!